Hey y'all, I want to talk to you today about grieving. And grieving is not one size fit all. One of the things that I learned is that we don't get to tell someone how to grieve, how long they should grieve, especially when it's something really, really serious or it's something that takes them back to a trauma moment. And I say that because when I turned 49 years old, I found out that I was adopted by accident. So of course they took me down a rabbit hole to find out like what's going on. Somebody owes me some answers. My mom who had adopted me, my parents who adopted me, my mom passed away when I was 28. My dad is still with me. Daddy's 81. And he wasn't ready to talk about it either. He was in shock that I found out. And I said to myself, well, how come you never told me? He said, your mother and I just never discussed it. We never discussed when we would tell you. He said, but I always wanted you to know. But it didn't, he said, but to me, you still my daughter, right? He said, and I don't regret adopting you because we wanted a daughter. My mother had 5 miscarriages. She couldn't carry a baby full term. She kept having complications. And so she wanted a daughter. So they adopted a daughter. They adopted me at 1 month old. And then miraculously, she carried my brother full term. So after she had me, but you know how it is when you're not focused on it, on that pregnancy, then that baby can be carried full term, right? So anyway, back to my birth mother. She wasn't ready to have the conversation. She was very secretive. I was like pulling teeth trying to get an answer out of her. And I mean, just general surface questions I was asking, but she just wasn't ready to deal with it because I guess she probably thought she never would have to. And I found out later on, that she was 18 years old and her parents were a bishop and a first lady at a church in God in Holiness Christ Church. So you already know, back in the 70s, they was not allowing her to come in there pregnant without a husband, right? That was just taboo in those days. So they would send the child away, have the baby, and put the baby up for adoption. And in my case, I found out later on that that's what happened. And I did get the other details of what happened. And it took her 2 whole years to actually reach out to me again, because like in the beginning we talked for like 2 months, and then I was like, I don't think you're ready. You got one foot in, one foot out. She was like, I'm really not. Maybe I'm not. And she said, so I said, well then that's okay. Take the time that you need to process this, and I'll go reach out to my sister, because I know I had 2 sisters, and I reached out to them so that I could get to know them and the rest of my cousins, the rest of my family, which I did, and that was amazing. So 2 years went by, and when I finally let go of the possibility of us actually having a relationship, she calls. And she took accountability. She apologized for everything, and she told me that her mother had set up everything. She orchestrated everything. She had people in other places, and that she took me from her womb and put me in the system. So she never even got a chance to hold me. That was the first abandonment moment for me. That was the first time that I was abandoned, at infancy. And when those wounds, those energetic wounds come into your system, they're there, and they're there until you deal with them. And so she was not ready to deal with it. She was not ready to have the conversation. But when she did reach back out 2 years ago and apologize for everything, and she let me know everything that happened, I forgave her. I was like, okay, no, it is what it is. She had no power at the time. So she thought. And so, I got the answers. I wanted to know what happened. She told me what happened. She apologized for everything. And I said, okay, no problem. But what I realized in that 2 years of time, and this is what I want to share with you when I say healing is not one size fit all, is that we don't get to tell someone how to heal, how long the process is for them to heal. Because when they have to revisit that pain point, when they have to revisit that trauma moment, we don't know what it does to them to have to revisit that moment. And so I wanted to give her the grace and the space to do that. And I'm glad I did, because she let me know. She said I had a chance to process everything. And I truly apologize. I apologize to you. I owe you that. And I said, thank you. Now, I know somebody's saying, well, how, are y'all close today? We tried it, and, we were on the phone talking a lot. And then after a while, they kind of just faded away. You know, I tried to get to see her when I went last time I went to town, because I'm from Philly. Last time I went to Philly, and she had moved out the country. She was moving out the country, so that was the end of it. And I'm okay with it because I had a great mom. I had an amazing mom. But I wanted to say to you that when somebody has to heal, or if you're dealing with a situation where someone has done something to you, or that hurt you, or you have questions about, give them some space and some grace to take the time to process everything and heal on their own terms. And when they're ready, they'll come back around. All right, this is Sonia Renee. You're sipping with Sonia, and I'll see you next time. Bye.